Okay, this is going to be Federalist 24, Part 4. Previous to the Revolution, and ever since the peace, there has been a constant necessity for keeping small garrisons on our western frontier. No person can doubt that these will continue to be indispensable, if it should only be against the ravages and depredations of the Indians. These garrisons must either be furnished by occasional detachments from the militia or by permanent corps in the pay of the government. The first is impracticable, and if practicable would be pernicious. The militia would not long, if at all, submit to be dragged from their occupations and families to perform that most disagreeable duty in times of profound peace. And if they could be prevailed upon or compelled to do it, the increased expense of a frequent rotation of service and the loss of labor and disconcertion of the industrious pursuits of individuals would form conclusive objections to the scheme. It would be as burdensome and injurious to the public as ruinous to private citizens. The latter resource of permanent corps in the pay of the government amounts to a standing army in time of peace, a small one indeed, but not the less real for being small. Here's a simple view of the subject that shows us at once the impropriety of a constitutional interdiction of such establishments and the necessity of leaving the matter to the discretion and prudence of the legislature. Okay. He says, right now we've got some soldiers along the frontiers here. Okay, because he says that we see that Native American tribes that are in these areas attack our settlements. So he claims, he says that, okay? He says now if there's going to be multiple attacks, if we don't have a small professional military, small standing army, then we have to constantly ask the states for militias to be sent there. And he says we have already experienced what a bad system that was during the Revolutionary War. Because it is really hard to persuade these states to send their militias. And even if they tried, sometimes people would not show up at the right time. They would not be trained properly. And then on top of that, he says another important thing to remember is that if a militia comes, they're just regular people. They've got farms, they've got family. Maybe they'll come for 2 weeks, for a month. But if it's going to be an extended time, and you know travel was difficult at the time, it would take days, weeks sometimes, especially if you had a carriage, and you were going long distance. Say they are not going to leave their farm and family and lose money, lose income, be away from the duties to their family, taking care of kids, help raise the kids. And that is not going to work. So it's better to have soldiers specifically for that reason, and so that we won't jeopardize ourselves. This way we'll have trained soldiers. If we have Native Americans attack us, if the Spanish decide to eventually, make a deal with the British and they attack us, she says we need trained soldiers. You cannot expect militia to do what a trained soldier does. Then he continues in paragraph 12, In proportion to our increase in strength, it is probable, nay, it may be said certain, that Britain and Spain would augment their military establishments in our neighborhood. In other words, British and Spanish are going to add to their military presence in our area. If we should not be willing to be exposed in a naked and defenseless condition to their insults and encroachments, we should find it expedient to increase our frontier garrisons in some ratio to the force by which our western settlements might be annoyed. There are and will be particular posts, the possessions of which will include the command of large districts of territory and facilitate future invasions of the remainder. It may be added that some of those posts will be keys to the trade with Indian nations. Can any man think it would be wise to leave such posts in a situation to be at any instant seized by one or the other of the two neighboring and formidable powers? To act this part would be to desert all the usual maxims of prudence and policy. So there will be forts here that will be established. He says if we have soldiers, or if we don't have soldiers that are there permanently, and these forts, we could use them for good reasons. We can actually deal with Indians, trade with them, but at the same time show them that they cannot attack us because we have a strong military presence there. But he says if we play weak, and if we keep on sending militia and the militias don't show up, or our presence is not steady, then either the British or the Spanish are going to take advantage of it and take over. Do you think this is not crazy that we can have this advantage and give it up to people who are going to be using it against us? In the last paragraph, if we mean to be a commercial people, or even to be secure on our Atlantic side, we must endeavor as soon as possible to have a navy. To this purpose, there must be dockyards and arsenals, and for the defense of these, fortifications and probably garrisons. When a nation has become so powerful by sea that it can protect its dockyards by its fleets, this supersedes the necessity of garrisons for that purpose. But where naval establishments are in their infancy, moderate garrisons will, in all likelihood, be found an indispensable security against descents for the destruction of the arsenal and dockyards, and sometimes of the fleet itself. He says right now we don't have a big navy. The smart thing is to start building a navy like we talked about in the past. But he says at the same time we've got to have fortifications for our dockyards, just so that in case enemy decides to attack us from the Atlantic or even from the west, we can confront them. Now he says on the Atlantic side, on this side, as time goes on and we build our navy, then we can stop them from attacking us at any point. We won't need to have a strong army presence here. But that's going to take a while. So he says, don't be naive. Do what you got to do for right now, and don't be prey to the British and Spanish Empire. Okay, these are some of the professors that I've mentioned to you before. If you cannot read their books, at least watch their videos of their lectures. It will help you understand early American history and the founding of this country a little better. This is Joseph Ellis. Another professor and author is Jack Rakoff. Another one is Gordon Wood. Like I said, they have lots of videos on C-SPAN, on YouTube, and on a whole lot of websites belonging to different organizations. Read this book, A Brilliant Solution, if you can. She gives a 40-minute talk on C-SPAN. You can watch that about this book. Okay? And I've mentioned this many times. History Channel has done 2 series of videos, the American Revolution, Founding Fathers, and make sure you also watch PBS series Liberty, the 6-part series. And Ken Burns is a documentarian. Watch all his videos. He's got many different video series on American history. Him and his team are great storytellers. So watch every one of his videos that you can. A lot of them are done for PBS, so they might be available online. And some of them, if you have a public library close to you, if you live in the United States, the public libraries have them. You can get them through interlibrary loan, is when libraries loan to each other. And sometimes you can find them for a good deal. I don't know. But I'm saying definitely watch all of his videos when you can. They're very, very good.